I'm going to be sharing in this video how I vibe code. Now, as a developer, we don't necessarily vibe code entirely based on vibes, and we use a lot of intuition that we've developed over the years. And so I'm going to show that process. I'm going to show how I vibe code an app. And what we're going to do is I have a folder full of some data about individuals that we met at AI Film 3. And we're going to make a little portfolio website for all of them based on that data. Because it's JSON data, ideally we'll render the data from the JSON files directly, and ideally there's some consistencies. And you'll see how I prompt and how I get this to work. The quickest and easiest way I know to develop an app, web app, is with Create T3 app. I'm not shilling Theo. I simply love the tool. It makes getting started super easy. So we're going to call this AI Film 3 Portfolios. And then this is just going to be front end. So I'll say TypeScript, Tailwind CSS, no TRPC, no auth, no ORM, app router, and we're going to use ESLint. We're going to init git repo, run npm install. We're going to use @ import alias. So from here, just type cursor, folder name, and start a new terminal, npm run dev. And here's your app. It's very simple, very easy to start. You can do this in under a minute. I recommend learning how to create these apps really quickly, because when you prototype, you don't want to spend 12 minutes configuring Tailwind and then debugging some random issue with npm. If someone's already figured it out for you, good. What I'm going to try here is a one-shot prompt. So I'm going to move my, I'm going to commit all this stuff. So I'm going to say initial commit. Now you want to do this because if you have some major issue later on, you want to be able to revert. So I'm going to move all my data in. And I'm going to move my data in the root folder. Now here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to describe in detail what I want. So we're going to say is create and design a portfolio page for every individual. We want to dynamically load the data from JSON files for each individual. Each JSON file has a consistent layout, so you will use the fields to populate the data. Do not create a page route for every JSON file. Instead, dynamically load the data upon request. Now, here's something that could be interesting. So this is one of those things that'll probably end up working locally, and then maybe when you deploy it, there's some sort of issue. I imagine there's going to be some sort of like route loading with the JSON files. So in a production app, what you'd probably want to do is move this to a database, and then when you go to the page, fetch the data. But what I don't want to do is create an individual route for each page and then manually populate the data until you want some kind of customization for every single individual, different designs, stuff like that. But for a basic demo, I just want to load the data from the JSON file and create a page. So you can see it's creating a portfolio.ts file. And this is a typed version of the data in our JSON file. Now, hopefully, all the data that my friend gave me is correct, and it's all laid out exactly like this. We could run into issues if it's not. So we see here, just like I asked, there's a slug. So what these brackets mean is it's a dynamic route. And that's what this not found here is. Potentially, you type something in the URL bar that does not exist. And that's what this page is for. Now, this is a very simple project. And later, I want to add some fancy unicorn design elements and customize the page. But the reason why I'm showing my workflow is because a lot of people, they have trouble getting something to start, and they use platforms like Lovable and Bolt.new, and I think that's perfectly fine, but I think in the long run, you're going to be limited. And also, you see I have a command here. Read the command before you click run, because if it's malformatted, it could really mess up your computer. There's been a whole scandal on Linux where there was a space somewhere and it deleted an entire folder or drive, right, instead of deleting a file. So pay attention. You can see here it failed to compile and it fixed it. So this is just a thing with Next.js 15. The route params have to be wrapped in a promise. So it does a lot of the checks for you, and we're going to go to the link and we're going to, so it's going to run. I already ran it. We don't need to do that. So I'm going to go to, I imagine it's going to be, so let's do Ashley Galaxy, and it looks like the route's going to be portfolio/slug. So we're going to do /portfolio/Ashley Galaxy. And we see the first downfall of vibe coding. It doesn't always work, so we get internal server error. So I'm going to go back here, and it looks like there's an issue with opening the JSON file, as I mentioned. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check here and see, okay, it's trying to open it from the build. Let's see if the file's there. And we can see there's no, if we go to server, app, looks like it's trying to go to page. I don't see a page folder. But you can see it did build the routes, which is very interesting. So here's how we can try to vibe debug this. So let's tell the AI there is an internal server error. And we're going to copy this error. And then we're going to say Next.js did, in fact, build routes for the individual. And what I'll do is I'll just tag a page here. And then we'll describe, so the error occurs on any page, including the root. So let's, I'm going to say I do not see a page folder. So this is our vibe debugging process. Now again, like I mentioned, there's going to be issues with opening these files right away. I imagine it's going to be a further issue on production. So for this kind of stuff, we're going to hit, it says it might be a corrupted build. So we'll try again. I'm skeptical that is the issue, but we'll try again. And it'll probably realize it's not a corrupted build. So I look again, we see pages folder, but there's no individuals here. So let's see what it's going to do next. So we're going to go back and refresh, and we see we still get the error. So here's where things can get tricky. You can get trapped in a loop real fast. So you got to be careful. So I'm going to say in the same chat, this is not an issue of builds. We have the same issue. After successfully building, this is likely an issue of trying to open and read JSON files dynamically from the local file system. So you can see, because of my intuition, I'm able to guide it in the right direction. And this is how you avoid getting trapped in AI hell. So if we look here, it says, the user is right. We're trying to use FS promises to read, but we're in the Next.js app router. Now, a lot of times I will tell you, oh, you're absolutely right, when you're not right. So you gotta be careful. So you can see here there's some errors. and likely the JSON isn't perfectly formatted, as I imagined would be an issue. So I'm going to hit the build. I imagine it's going to build fine, but it's going to find these errors and it's going to try to fix them. So I'm going to hit stop, and I'm going to try to load the route again. So you see, it works so far. So I'm going to head back to this link. And okay, we get a 404. So let's look at the console. So no console errors. Also no errors here. I'm going to go back to the slug. And I'm going to double check that I actually wrote this correctly. So app, portfolio, and then the slug. And I see there's get all portfolio slugs. What I'm going to do is after slugs, I'm going to console log slugs. I'm going to reload this page and see if we have any. Okay, so I see Ashley. Interesting. So maybe it's not based on these file names, because you can see these slugs are different. And here we go. It works. There you go. So now every one of our individual has a little landing page. Now, here's why the issue of vibe coding and vibe developing is plaguing people, especially non-developers. So if I wasn't able to guide it in the right direction, because as you can see, I was able to, if I can find it, okay, I was able to explain that this is an issue with reading the JSON files. And that's why I chose this project to record the video. It's a very small project, but it shows the main issue. If I would have kept there and complaining about it don't work, why don't it work, right? And kept pasting in the same error, you often get put in this really annoying loop where it keeps saying that you're right, and then it fixes something completely unrelated, and that can be really annoying. And ultimately, it's going to take way longer for you to reach your solution. And that's why I wanted to show you need to have some developer intuition. You need to understand what's going on, and this will make your life a lot easier if you're trying to build. Now, if you're non-technical, you can learn this stuff. You can learn your CS concepts. You can learn how to code, right? Ultimately, that's why people bring on their CTOs and senior developers. But I think AI has really leveled out the field though. And it's impressive that I can build this fast. I mean, I just started recording the video not too long ago, and the app works. It's really impressive. You have to have some skill to be able to build this efficiently, and I'm all about efficiency. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you can see some of the pitfalls and why you would need some intuition. And this is basically the way I vibe code. But it's not purely based on vibes. A lot of it is based on intuition.